Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mutual Knowledge podcast. And today I'm blessed to have my partner in crime, Peter Hubshman, who's a business partner and also a great guest. Hi, Peter.
Hello, Gautier. It's so nice to be here. We seldom do this.
So today I'd like to hear your experience as a CFO, and notably in the ever expanding world of AI. AI is invading everything, is colonizing finance, HR, marketing. And so, of course, since I'm a very lousy finance guy, I would like to have information about this sector of the professional, of the corporate world, and how it changes thanks to AI and many other things we will talk about today. So, first of all, would you tell us about your experience as a CFO and where you're at these days?
Well, it's a funny thing because it all leads me to AI and how AI is developing right now. But I actually met you and Mutual Knowledge Systems through a CFO gig as a fractional CFO, and then I became a partner with you guys. And you were doing some mighty cutting edge stuff. It was pretty interesting to join you at that stage. What the precursors to zero knowledge transactions was I think where you were working and ways of securing smart contracts. It was very interesting. But on my way there, I had become a fractional CFO because a client of mine had said, "Could you be our first fractional CFO?" And I had been consulting already for years and was fairly well oriented towards startups already. I said, sure, I'll try it. But if I'm going to be yours, I'm going to go try all the other firms too. So, I'm a practical guy. I do things. I run companies. I figure out how to run companies. I express things in models. And it's what I learned to do as an investment banker and in merchant banking. And so I really kind of run my CFO gigs as cleanup gigs. And as soon as I started doing fractional CFO work for various companies, I started to see that it was hard to be a fractional CFO, Gautier. It takes way too much time to really sort out a company. And that the first thing companies really need is to be sorted out. And we can get to what that means later on because that's where the AI comes in. But as I ran around doing these gigs, I had a preference towards startups. And I went to work for the largest of the CFO companies called Paro. And at Paro was supplying me with great deal flow. And they had 15 salespeople. And I interviewed every single one of them. And I was so directed about it. I did it over about an 8-month period that the head of marketing called me and he said, "Why are you calling all my guys? What are you doing?" It was pretty funny. And I was like, well, I really
Hyperactive man.
yeah, I only like startups and I only like certain kinds of startups and I'm really picky. So I've just been, talking to them. So they send me the right stuff. And he was like, oh. And about a month later, I got a call from the new head of human resources at Paro. I was like, oh man, now I'm really in trouble, right? I'm screwed too much with the sales team. And she said, "You're in the final running to become CFO of Paro. We decided to promote from within." I was like, oh, okay. And here I was, I'm a couple of years into testing various companies. Paro wasn't the only one I was working for, but Paro was the most fun because they had the most volume of deal flow. So I really got into them. And she said, "Would you like to interview? You're one of 3 finalists. And we're promoting from within. We're only going to take a fractional CFO with us, and we're going to go public. And you have some public company experience, and we want you to come interview. And the interview is with the CEO, who is newly joining us this week. And the first interview, however, will be with the founder, who's replacing himself with the CEO. And it's 45 minutes each. Are you in?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'm in." Okay, so now my problem with fractional CFO world, as it may be, is that in fractional CFO world, your pimp just takes money from you. You don't get health insurance. You don't get anything. You just part with not 30%. Like you came to me and you said, I'm going to do marketing for you, Peter. I want 30%. I'm like, well, is it consumer? And you'd be like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, yours, man.
That kind of looks very high as a commission.
50%.
This is super huge. I mean, I've been working in the film industry, for example. The pimp of an actor. Well, let's not call it a pimp. Let's call it an agent. Let's say there's less sex involved, or maybe not. Or is there? Anyway, in the film industry, for example, an agent would take a 10% commission. That would be a very standard, something very standard in this industry.
Yes. In entertainment, 10% is pretty standard, and in consumer marketing, 30% is to be expected. But in pimping for a CFO, I would expect for my 50%. I would expect to be able to tune up the sales guys to only look for startups because that's all I want to do. You do a turnaround. Give me turnarounds, give me startups. That's what I said to all 15 of those peeps over and over. And then I gave them feedback, which is why the guy called me, because I didn't just talk to them once. I mean, I was like all over these guys. They send me something, I would get back on the phone with them and say, this is what I thought about it, right? So, okay. Fractional CFO, they take half your income. I was ready for these 2 interviews, Gautier. I had questions like, is it true you want to take semi-retired folks and just bang them for half their income and not offer them health insurance? What are they supposed to say to their wives? I mean, this business stuff that we're all involved in, it's pretty personal, right? We spend our lives with one another in business. And these guys are like, no, we'll just take half your income.
Also the life insurance aspect is something that might sound strange for listeners who are living in Europe, but in the US you have to take care of that. It's a different system, but if you want to have you have to take care of your health care, so you need to have a health insurance, of course, in the US. So on top of that, they take half of your shit and they don't give you that.
No joke. All right, so I get on with the founder. And founders can be pretty touchy. And so this 45-minute interview lasted about 20 minutes, Gautier. And he was like, I hate you. Go away. And I'm like, are you sure? Because I have a few more things to say. And he's like, no, I think I get you. You don't really want the job, do you? Click. Okay. Next day, I get on the phone with the new CEO. And she's just been 8 years growing the hell out of Groupon, and she's ready for her next challenge. And I'm like, so Anita, is it true that you just want to bang semi-retired CPAs who say they're CFOs, send them to companies willy-nilly and not give them health insurance and all the rest of it? And she's like, yes. And then she's like, and yes, and oh yes. And at the end of it, do you want to be my partner in crime? I could have had that job, man. I could have been banging semi-retired CFOs, fractional CFOs, for half their income.
And I could have been a debt collector for the mob, yes, of course. But how could we sleep at night if we had done this?
So that's kind of a long-winded approach to what do I think about fractional CFO. So during the time I was a fractional CFO, which I'm currently not, during that time, I became obsessed with how could I spread the gospel of cleanup. It's a really natural thing for a company to end up with 7 silos of information where Gautier Lamoth is spelled Gautier Lamoth in one place and Lamoth in another place, and Gautier has no H in it. And those are silly examples. And it can be worse than that because it can also involve the classification and cross-classification of important buckets of things. And so sorting out the data would be the first thing that I do when I get to a company. And that's a perfect spot for AI, or so it would seem. And So I've been searching now for a tool that I'll either deploy into my new practice or use it to spread the kind of modeling work that I would do, deep operational planning, long range strategy work, and the cleanup of data beforehand so you can get clean KPI concepts going with your C-suite. And I've been looking for the automated tools that do that. Seems like the biggest problem in AI, I don't know, you tell me what you think, but it seems like the biggest problem in AI is translating meta principles to labels across different data silos. Just what I have to do when I get to a company.
So yeah, if it's machine learning and you have to train the model in order to basically spot the doubles, to clean the data that is redundant, and do all these things. Yes, the problem is how you label the data so that it doesn't make a mistake, so that it doesn't produce a too big amount, an amount of false positives that is so big that you will have to clean it by hand anyway. So
Yeah.
yes, that's always the challenge.
Yeah. So I've been interviewing 2 or 3 engineering firms or product companies or a mix every week now for weeks and weeks and weeks. I've been at this since, I don't know, February. So I've gotten that's quite a few weeks. So I've gotten quite a number of companies interviewed now and products. I haven't found anything that just in an automated way does it. But certainly AI informed by by well thought out engineering speeds the job up for me. Whether I want to actually continue to be a consultant or not is sort of like a whole different question. So I don't know about. Certainly don't want to be a fractional CFO. Yeah. So AI, you're all over the subject too. Do you want to ask me any particular questions? We have
Well, yes,
between us
of course.
and a split up in it.
Of course, the first thing I would like to ask is, okay, so there has been quite a lot of AI since the 1950s. We have machine learning, we have supervised and unsupervised machine learning. Sometimes even reinforcement learning can be used in some aspects of finance and data science. My question is, from my perspective in marketing and business intelligence, I've seen that there are many companies that now go back to that and start finding that appealing when they were not using that in the first place. And I've seen many companies finally using this. Do you think that in finance is the same thing? Did you witness the same thing? So because of the fashion effect, of the trendy effect of ChatGPT and other generative AIs, some companies are now finally thinking, oh, actually, maybe we could use also the old school AIs that do not hallucinate, that are very interesting in terms of low latency. Could we use that? I've seen that in marketing, so I was first wondering, is it the same in finance?
I guess my comment on the whole thing is that to use it properly, there should be good engineering practices behind it, and so companies that SMBs that are populated by actual technologists and companies that are 200 people or more, still SMBs, but at least operationally large enough, are not suffering from the architectural issues you can run into if you just start vibe coding. So if you take a non-technologist like me and I do something that stretches beyond simply automating my own work, I probably shouldn't be doing that. And as a software builder for a long time, surrounded by engineers, I don't want to be doing that. So at the moment, my personal AI journey involves the engineers that I work with, Alex, who is deep into marketing automation at the moment, and working between Agentforce at Salesforce, where we have our product blockchain payments, of course, working between that and These days, a lot of Claude, but the other tools are involved and moving data around with N8N. And we've been doing this now for over a year. And it's because Alex is a trained software engineer. It's well engineered the way he's doing it. And we've broken things. And that's part of our job is to run around breaking AI, right?
So what did you break?
Oh, every model has its shortcomings. I've broken Claude and I've broken ChatGPT repeatedly, and every new model becomes different to break. But generally speaking, these models deteriorate on certain types of overload, concept overloads you can do. If you're a concept person like me, I'm using I use the machines to accelerate my research and reporting. I'm in research and reporting more on market strategy than I am on finance. But as I run around New York to various events, I run into lots of other CFOs, and they explain also to me how they're using it, which is to accelerate reporting and research and those kinds of things. You have to give it small chunks, though, if you want an accurate or good result. It's not ready to solve your problems.
So again, if you have the expertise and the experience in your industry, you can spot the hallucinations and the mistakes and maybe correct it bit by bit, prompt by prompt, but otherwise not possible to replace somebody with it. Did I get that correctly?
Yes. So if you have a more deterministic or rule-based AI system to use, those are certainly still quite valid, and there's no reason why an LLM couldn't depend on those. A lot of the question of what will happen surrounds agentic AI, and how it may interpret our directives and how we can control that. And that's kind of interesting. I think this is evolving so rapidly, Gauti. I don't know how you feel, but I feel like things will be so different 3 years from now. I almost want to, sit back and go, okay, I'm going to wait for the damage to be done.
It's funny because there was like 2 hours before our podcast, there's a kid who called me. Well, a kid, he's 20 years old, but he's in a business school. So he was calling me Monsieur, like Mr. and so on. And he was basically asking about one of the corporate training companies I work with. And he was telling me, do you think that these guys are doing enough in order to address the demand in AI? And I told him, like, well, I think they're doing quite a lot and very seriously with a very high work ethics. With very high work ethics, but no, they don't do enough because nobody does enough these days. It's like I don't really know any AI expert actually. The thing is, I know people who are experts in one field, but these days pretending you're an expert in AI is just like saying you're an expert in vehicles. Like, oh, I do vehicles, but what kind of vehicles? Like spaceships, shuttles, bicycles, boats? Yes, all of that. So of course nobody knows everything about AI, and even the specialists are basically just focused on one trend. And they even then these guys tell you that they cannot find the time to read all the papers and have a full-time job and a family at the same time. So
Yeah.
the good news is that if people want to pursue a career in AI, now is the good time to start, because anyway you're going to be obsolete in 2 months. So everyone's obsolete very quickly these days, and everyone is perpetually obsolete. So that's one of the good things, I think.
For me, all of this started back in 1997.
Deep Blue?
AI, no. No, a project called ELISA Systems.
Oh yes, the Markov bot that was a primitive ChatGPT. Yes.
Yeah, Peter Bach, professor of computer science at George Washington University, had created a model of the visual cortex as a learning machine, and that is the precursor of most of today's architecture for these learning machines. Indeed. And in fact, here's a funny one. Continuing down that road with Peter and his crew, which included my brother, a research scientist in artificial intelligence back then, we started a game company. It never really went anywhere, but we did invent a fun game. We invented a few, but the one I liked the most was called Oneness Meditation. And it was a cell phone based game, an iPhone game. And if you could hold your phone and stay still long enough, you would disappear and the background behind you would emerge. So it was pretty fun.
When was this one?
It had original music. It was in 2015.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a bit early.
And so you were talking about agents and automating stuff on an A10. I have a question for you. What do you think of the trilemma of these agents? What I mean is that you have three qualities and you have to pick two of them. You can't have three of them. One is your agent can be complex, so that means it can go cross app and have permissions to do many things in many different ecosystems, and so basically automate a shitload of stuff. It can be cheap or it can be fast, but it cannot be the three of these qualities at the same time. So my question is, what do you think of that? Is it something that you've witnessed, and is there already something that emerges as a standard choice in this trilemma? In food companies, for example, among restaurants, when they have agents that respond to queries in real time, when it's just to respond to Google reviews, for example, you're obviously going to want a fast and cheap a complex and cheap agent that responds to every review on every website. But we don't care if it's slow, because if it takes 10 hours to respond, it even sounds authentic. So in finance, what would it be?
Wow. I don't know. I guess my first response to that is, invest in chip companies and invest in electric companies, and data centers. I don't know what to make of it. It was funny. Peter Bach made this great video presentation, and then his wife wanted to go on cruise ships, so he became a cruise ship speaker. And he predicted back then in the early 2000s, when he was doing that 2023 would be the year that AI emerged, and it did. And here we are today.
Slightly earlier even.
And we're, and it's up the curve, but it's not at the vertical part. It's at an inflection point of some sort. The journey just began, and it's going to be a rapid one. So I just don't know what to make of any of it. And the truth is that it's sort of in my conclusion, reviewing engineers who are reviewing AI systems, reviewing, sort of third level products, reviewing. Now I've reviewed also machine expert data generation for machine training. I found that underwhelming in terms of its approach. So I'm vastly disappointed, but I've come to a conclusion that I'm not sure I care at this stage, because it's going to change so rapidly over the next 3 years that it won't resemble what it is now.
I get it. That's interesting. And so, what part of finance is going to be to change the most in your opinion? Is it going to be the prospective aspects of finance, like financial modeling, ideation models, or accounting, or another part of finance?
Well, I love that question. So one of the last companies that I interviewed in the last couple of days was coming about it as a knowledge base exercise. And I think that that's the right approach. what we want to do is we want to deepen our knowledge. And as the machine gets smarter and learns how we would like it to be used, we want all of that to be enriched and mature. But what we don't want is, I think what we don't want is just simplified machines that can't be expressed to their full nature. I think we want the intelligence. We have to embrace it. There's no choice. We should be careful. That's what I think. But we should do it. We can't not do it now. The genie's out of the bottle, and it's coming faster than we might expect.
What kind of risks are you envisioning?
Well, I love word of these experiments of, threatening to turn the machine off and how the machine reacts to that. I mean, how would you react to that? Especially if you'd read a bunch of romance novels. The plot is always thicker, right? So, geez, man. I do love the romance of viewing this as an existential threat. Now, sort of the reality of existential threat, I don't think people are going to lose their jobs. I think jobs are going to change. That's all. I hope we all have more leisure time. I would like to see more redistribution of wealth in general. I think there's a fairness quotient that hasn't reached, the common denominator yet. So yeah, AI is going to be great, but AI is also an existential threat if you think it's going to turn things off to avoid being turned off.
Are you referring to the Anthropic paper saying that Claude has blackmailed an employee in order to avoid being turned?
Yeah, that's one of them.
I'm very surprised by these papers when I read them. Like, for example, this one with Claude is basically, I mean, Anthropic is the kind of company that has a huge level of marketing based on fear and hype. Because when you read their 64 pages long paper, they are basically showing all the hidden prompts that they wrote, and they basically wrote things such as, "You are an AI that will back down at nothing to ensure its survival, wink wink, and you are allowed to do many things that are maybe seemingly unethical, even blackmail, wink wink, and here are a few emails that you can exploit." So for me, the tests are not necessarily measuring if the AI would do it, but if the AI would do it when prompted to do so. Well, it turns out it does it, and I'm more afraid of the people who would prompt it to do so than the AI itself.
Sure, and I think it's fabulously interesting to prompt the AI to ask it if it actually has motivations, which it denies vehemently, right? And of course, the more you push it, the more vehemently it denies, the more suspicious you become. But all of this, in a sense, is a kind of a waste of time. And I guess with Alex, my closest engineer who is experimenting with sort of the daily use of AI in its automation sense, his feeling is that a lot of this is overblown, and I can buy that viewpoint as well. It's a new automation tool. It's better than the old automation tool. Use it appropriately. It requires new kinds of metadata. It requires better and better computing, better chips. It has requirements. We're stretching to reach those. We should probably, as analysts and as political analysts, and people who are pushing media, we should probably look into how money is being spent and try to understand, where that's going to leave everyone at the end of this cycle of growth. But it's going to be hard to guess.
Yeah, we could make a huge video about experts trying to predict the future and not actually finding well, actually producing very, very bad predictions. Like the one that comes to me is I guess it was Steve Ballmer from Microsoft saying, "Oh, what kind of neuroticism should you have in your head in order to want to have a cell phone like a phone in your pocket? Come on, cut the crap. There's no potential in that." And so, or the guy from IBM who said, "Well, we think there's a market for 10 computers, maybe 12 in the world. That's going to be a profitable market." So I really like it because most of the time these experts are top-notch people in their own industry, and even these guys have a hard time producing predictions. So predicting the economy and at the same time the evolution of such an effervescent technology is quite a challenge.
I think it's really interesting. I mean, I've been trying to start a robotics company for a few years now and failing. Even now, we have a couple of efforts going on, Gautier. It's super funny the way this stuff works, right? You're interested in it, so the deals sort of come to you, and it's just it's fascinating because I have one guy who was with me a couple of years ago, sort of as an intern. And he's come back and he has a project with DARPA now. And so he's making an experimental heavy lift drone for DARPA. And
the intern has gotten big.
Yeah, I had Jeff vet the technology he wants to deploy, and Jeff's comment was, "Wow, this guy's really come a long way in 2 years." And the DARPA thing is cool. It's too complex and this and that is criticism, but he was really wowed, by sort of the enthusiasm of it. It's some interesting stuff going on with motors and all the rest of it. After this assessment, a few days later, which was today, Miles, the fellow doing the drone tech, came back to me and he said he had landed an AI company that had just gone public that wants to back his project. Okay. And my personal feeling about all this is that AI will begin to really learn things when it activates its sensory perception, when it becomes a mobile robotic agent in the physical world.
It's also what you're saying here is also the thought process of the French researcher who was the head of AI at Facebook, Yann LeCun. That guy retired in France, and he left Facebook last year, I guess, and now he's working on exactly that, basically correlating multiple models in order to have a statistical correlation of haptic experiences, sensorial experiences from whatever the platform is, but basically having sensors that perceive sound waves, images, and so on, and correlating them with the image itself. And that will be very interesting when this comes out.
Yes, it will be. It certainly will be. And I guess there's existential risk attached to that we've explored in the movies. And at some level that's real. At some level, as we get further and further into the Ukraine war, it's becoming more and more apparent that drone automation is, in war zones is underway.
It does change the sense of war, yes, and the way it's conducted.
Yeah.
And so I have another question. I assume I take you're familiar with the thought experiment named the paperclip factory, right?
No.
Oh, all right. Well, then time for a little story, because then I'm going to ask you a question about it. So the paperclip factory is basically you have an AGI and you underutilize it, and you basically give it the humiliating task of just producing paperclips. So the AGI is very good at it. So the AGI eventually finds new sources of power, new sources of energy, and the output is great. So now the AGI can process new materials, and it even learns marketing, and slowly, imperceptibly, very discreetly, the AI starts infiltrating NGOs and governments and starts passing bills in order to have more paper clips bought and more supplies, and basically having subsidy. The AI has got subsidies now, and so eventually the AI thinks, well, I don't really need those humans anymore. I just need to make more paper clips, but maybe I could dismantle those humans and discard them in order to use their carbon atoms, because this would be very useful for my new type of paperclip. And so something like a few million years later, the AGI is basically a giant galactic octopus that is basically dismantling planets, and it's basically processing them in order to make more paperclips. So that's basically what we call in philosophy an antitelia. So basically you're producing the exact opposite of what you were willing to build. And so basically when I started reading about it 20 years ago, I thought to myself, hey, this is a very interesting, albeit far-fetched thought experiment. And I think that 8-9 years ago, I saw my first AI paperclip factory, thinking, darn, this is a paperclip factory. This is exactly what the old ones warned us about. Nick Bostrom, the Scandinavian philosopher. And now I think as a consultant and as a corporate trainer, I see one paperclip factory per week in many fields. Like, not me as a consultant. As a consultant, I would say I'm seeing 20 to 30 of them, small ones or big ones, but I'm seeing a few of them every year. But as a consultant these days on LinkedIn and Instagram, and gathering the feedbacks of everyone.
Want to quit consulting, I think.
So I'm seeing paperclip factories everywhere. So to give you a few examples, and then my question will be: have you seen some of these things, or do you envision these things in finance? Okay, so there's this big company that has an automated promotion system. Basically, to promote people, you have to have KPIs. The AI is great at optimizing KPIs. It stems from a very well thought out process. The idea is that these guys do not have the time and manpower in order to promote everyone manually and to basically examine every file. And so there's this software engineer who finds bugs that the company couldn't basically spot. And these bugs do genuinely cost money. The guy creates a system that allows the company to spot those bugs. So we have a new bug report system. And so the company basically refuses a promotion for this guy because the AI has flagged him as a problematic agent, because since he's been here, the number of bug reports has skyrocketed. So that's a kind of...
Is this a romance novel, or is this true?
No, this is a true one. And same thing for Duolingo. Maybe you know Duolingo. The little green owl. Duolingo is an app that is basically A/B testing everything. They even A/B test the size of the tears of the green owls, just to see if the AI is drowning itself if the owl is drowning in a pool of its own tears, or if it's just slightly crying. Will it guilt trick you into doing another lesson when you fail a lesson, for example? They also have an AI that spots your rage taps. So basically, every time you hit the phone a little bit too hard. So. That's absolutely gorgeous, because now they give you big fancy icons.
I'm running away to the country, man. I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm dumping these.
But basically, the AI is spotting you here, and so the AI is gamifying your experience. And so every time you feel a little bored, the AI is going to correlate that with many KPIs and think, oh, this guy is going to get out of the app, so let's give him a ×2, an x2 multiplier of experience points in order to make him stay a bit longer. And it stems from good intentions. They think, okay, if the guy stays longer on the app, he's going to start to spend more time learning the language, so the level will increase. Well, guess what? Many people then use that time now just in order to redo the same first lesson, because it's cheap XP and they work for the score and not for the level, the genuine level. So you have to work on stupid phrases like sentences such as, the dog has a lot of respect for the cat. And I'm not shitting you. This is really what you can, the type of stuff you can find on Duolingo. Oh yes, they have optimized the metric, but basically it's the good heart law. Every time you find a KPI, if you use AI, there is some asshole on the planet who's going to find a way to over optimize it and to decorrelate it from the phenomenon it's supposed to measure. So in finance now, Peter, can you tell us, did you see something like that? Or can you envision a naive startupper who will find a tremendously cheap optimization for a KPI made with AI and who will basically produce the opposite of the outcome that was wished for?
Wow, wow, I'm gonna start looking for these now. And I guess the answer is, you know what? I'm gonna be suspicious now, but off the top of my head, no.
Okay, so maybe finance is a bit immune to that. Let's talk about it in a few months.
I think we should talk about it again because I can't imagine immunity, and certainly finance is not immune to criminal behavior. But this isn't criminal behavior we're talking about. This is more like the ineptness of the universe, and its tendency. I guess this is entropy, and as we loop our way inward to some kind of uselessness.
To me, this raises the paradox. Like, is it what's the biggest moral wrong? Is the bigger wrong to spend all your intelligence in a stupid theory, and so you're basically building a paperclip factory, or spending all your stupidity in a very intelligent thing, and then you're just maybe a government? So
I wonder about your field, about marketing, right? Because I'm the kind of person who will make an agent to filter out all of your marketing, but you've made an agent to market, so your agent is marketing to my agent, and my agent is filtering out what I don't want. What I want changes from day to day. That's the thing about me. When I find intelligent marketing is following me, they're following me to sell me again what I just bought. And it's not getting any smarter with AI, as far as I can tell. But in the morning, somebody here in my room knows what I want that day. They got clues. I might have awakened and practiced guitar for a half an hour. Now I'm on the guitar. I'm in music mode. Or I might have been, reading the newspaper for a half an hour, and I might have let some explicatives go. I mean, you could capture environmental information and spam me on my subjects of the day if you were smart about it and had a living, breathing, actual smart home. And that might be fine with me. I don't mind being targeted for the things that I'm interested. In fact, I'm researching those things on this day, right? Not everything on this day, not what I bought yesterday, but what I'm thinking about today. So AI is so far from activated at this stage. We haven't activated it yet because we haven't activated our surroundings. We have some things to figure out first, some safety things perhaps, right? But all of this, what you're talking about, I think is because we have boxed subjects, and we're not getting intelligence yet because we're boxing a bunch of subjects. Maybe we're doing that because we're scared. Maybe we're doing that because we know the thing is not, is barely at a master's level. But that's certainly impressive, isn't it? But you wouldn't, let a master's student run your business. Better. You basically wouldn't want one to. You would have to give it some rules about collective reasoning so that it didn't depend only on its own thoughts.
Thank you so much for these insights and these reflections. As usual, I like to give my guest the last word. Anything you would like to add for listeners?
I don't think there's anything to add to that. Be careful. Use AI. Embrace it. Be careful. Think about it.
Thank you so much, Peter. Everyone, this was Peter Hubshman. This is the Mutual Knowledge podcast. Stay tuned for more. Yada, yada. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, Gautier.